are listening to Real Estate Today. To reach Deb Tomaro or with questions and comments about the show, please send an email to Deb at realrealestatetoday.com. That's Deb at realrealestatetoday.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Well, hey, I'm Deb Tomaro, Realtor in Bloomington, Indiana. I'm like yelling at the, wait, I gotta schedule a showing during break because that's how quickly things are going in today's market. But anyways, I'll do it during the next break. So we are talking today about, we're starting segment 1 of a home seller series. You're going to have to kick me under the table every time I say home buyer, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Because I'm just so used to saying home buyer. But I'm excited. I've talked for years about putting together a home seller seminar, and I think it's about time. So we're doing that over the next 4 shows and talking about 3 segments in each one. So today we're going to get right at it with picking a realtor and just kind of the top rules. We have tons of shows that cover this topic. I think it was one of the first shows we ever did. I was talking about working with a realtor and picking a realtor and that kind of thing. So I just want to kind of go over my recommendations. And Karan, as a lender, I'm sure you have some recommendations too, because you've probably seen instances where people didn't pick a good fit for them, whether it's the buyer or the seller side.
That or not picking a realtor at all. I mean, that's...
You seem to be doing a lot of that this year.
It happened, yeah. I don't know if people are, if buyers are thinking that they can get a better deal because the commissions aren't there or whatever. You know, those fees aren't there, but...
well, certainly being a seller's market, I think sellers are thinking, my house should just sell itself.
Right.
And in some cases, that may be true. And honestly, you know, I always tell people, I sold a condo by myself before I was in real estate because a buyer came to me, literally left a note on my door.
Right.
I want to buy your condo. I'm like, oh, I do need to sell. Okay. You know, and it just kind of worked. I was clueless. We were both clueless through the whole process. But, you know, there are times like that where, you know, a traditional realtor setup doesn't necessarily work. But anyways, so one of my top tips is asking friends for recommendations is a great way to go. And I know a lot of realtors, I build my business off of referrals from past clients. So asking friends for recommendations, but not who do you know, but who have you used? And I think there's a big difference there. So don't just pick someone because they're related to someone you know. This is a huge financial transaction, and you really need to take it seriously and do your due diligence. So even if someone is like, you know, giving you a name, you still should take the opportunity to interview them. And I don't know, have you ever seen any transactions where it's like the cousin of the sister of the hairdresser of the guy who...
Yeah, I've seen those as well. And sometimes... when that happens, I don't know if there's a little bit slack between the communication sometimes with the agent and that party, because you just think, oh, we're related, or you know,
they sort of take it for granted.
Or it's a little bit more of a more relaxed, I
casual,
guess. Casual,
sure.
yeah, relationships,
right. And they're not. You know, I always tell the story of. Or when people say, you know, why should I pick a local lender? Because I'm big on local lenders. I'm like, because they care about their reputation here in town. And if something goes bad with one transaction, it can impact many, many other transactions for them. And so they tend to work harder because they take that relationship really seriously. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the same thing with a realtor who builds their business on referrals, is that they take that relationship really seriously, as opposed to someone who may build their business on paying for leads. Which is an interesting question, I guess. I don't know if you get a straight answer for that, but I would certainly, you know, if you were interviewing a realtor, like, where do most of your clients come from? Do they come from past clients, or do they come from
like lead generation,
random leads from Zillow? That says a lot. It really does. I know Karen's not going to say anything because she's going to be politically correct, but
I'm just saying, like, you shouldn't hang your hat on one hook. So if that's all you're doing, let's say, is lead generation. I mean, for the lender, I'm speaking as a lender.
Sure.
If all I was doing was trying to get leads from, and there are plenty out there, but not really focused on trying to build relationships with the real estate community here locally, then, I mean, you know, I'm leaving it up to the universe to like just magically
drop some leads in your lap.
Leads in my lap.
Well,
qualified leads.
Yeah. Well, I think let's talk about it. What is doing your due diligence as a seller trying to pick a realtor? What does that involve? Here's what I would recommend. First thing I would do, I would stalk their current listings. I always ask people when I go into a listing appointment, have you seen my listings? And usually they say no, and I get that because maybe they're hard to find, because there's a million listings out there, and I might have 10 or 20 at any given time, and how do you find them because you don't know what address or whatever. I get that. But if you can find them, I think you should find them. Check out how the realtor presents listings. Is it compelling? Are the pictures good? Is the content accurate? Is it complete? Because Karen, how many times do we see listings with crappy pictures? All the time.
Or few pictures. So if there's few pictures in there of like scenery, then I tend to think that maybe there's something, cosmetically or
or
whatever
nothing
wrong with
inside the house.
Right.
One of my favorites from a couple years ago was that the realtor wouldn't even get out of their car. You could see the side view mirror in the picture. Like they rolled their car window down to take the main picture of the front of the house, but down in the corner was the side view mirror because they just rolled the window down and took a picture from. Now, maybe there were vicious dogs. I don't know. I probably would have said that in the listing, though. Like, sorry for the picture, but there were vicious dogs. And you probably don't want to just do a drive-by at this house because the vicious dogs will kill you or whatever. One of the other favorite ones was wintertime. And they took a picture just of the backyard through the screen door. But they didn't actually go outside. So if you look at the pictures, it just had little block
from the screen.
Yeah, it had like little squares all over it. It made me dizzy.
Yeah. Just don't take pictures of the outside then. Just go that extra step.
You can't
open the door. I mean, they didn't even have to step outside. Sorry.
Right. So first thing you do, check out so a friend says, hey, I use this realtor. They're great. Awesome. Go check out their listings. See if their style, if you're happy with it, if it's got, all the information you're looking for, if it's compelling, if it makes people, makes you want to stop and look at the listing. I think that's really important. I think people don't do that. Then the next thing I would do is make a call or an email, kind of whatever your preferred method of communication is, and see how quickly they respond. Because one of the other things that drives me crazy, this is going to be like what drives Deb crazy? Everything, is when clients say, well, we really want to work with this realtor, we're just waiting for her to call us back. It's been a few days. Why do you want to work with that realtor then?
That happens on the lending side too.
Oh my gosh.
We're shopping.
She was really nice, but she won't call you back. I don't get it. So I would do that and then set up a time to interview them at your home usually, because I like to do a walkthrough. And it doesn't have to be a formal interview, but, I would have some questions written down. I'm always happy when people have questions written down so that we can make sure they get all of, anything that they want answered, especially if they're first-time home seller. But here are some suggestions on some things that I think you should ask about. And one, we've talked about this again, ask about strategy. What is the realtor strategy? I think strategy is huge in today's market. Like I was talking about at the top of the show, we've had to figure out new strategies, and what is that? And it's kind of one of the fun things this year, as well as one of the challenges. But I see too many listings that don't have a good strategy or a plan, and I just know that the seller is leaving money on the table. I mean, there are some houses that go up on the market, and you just think, they already had an offer, they never hit the open market. Is that the best strategy for that house? Maybe it is. Maybe to the seller, there's value in selling it before I even have to do a showing or make a bid. But are you leaving money on the table, and how much money are you leaving on the table? And I think that's a good conversation to have with an agent. Ask about the last house that they listed and what their specific strategy was about that house. I just feel like there are a lot of really good realtors who get that this market is different and they are approaching the market differently. Then there are some realtors who are just sort of maintaining the status quo. Like, this is how I've always done it. I've always listed it, never worried about pictures. I listed at an odd time. Like, who was it that listed something on like the Saturday night before Easter? And it was like one person went to see it on Easter Sunday, wrote an offer, and they got it because it's the first offer that came in. And it was a really hot neighborhood and a really hot house. And I just thought, who would do that? Like, that doesn't make sense. That's not a good strategy. I don't know.
But also, too, whenever you do agree to list with a certain realtor, how long is that agreement for? Is that 3 months, or I don't know how that works. Is that 6 months? Because that's the other thing, too. I'd be wondering, like, do I like this person? Do I like everything else about them? Because I'm going to be working with them for whatever that initial contract is.
Yep. At that first meeting at your home, you want to do a walkthrough of the house. And I always tell people up front, don't expect a price from me, because I'm not going to come to you with a formal, like, here's what your house is worth, until I've been through it and I've had some time to digest. So that's how I do things. Other realtors do things differently. I know a lot of realtors walk in with a very, a fancy folder and papers and here's what your house is worth. I feel like that's not accurate, because I haven't been in your house. So I might tell you something that's totally not true, and then you get stuck on that without me seeing what the true picture is of your house. And then be upfront with the realtor about your goals and your needs, and see how much they listen, and indicate that they'll craft a marketing strategy that helps you meet that. So when I go in, I don't typically have a fancy presentation. I just go in and say, tell me about you, tell me about your goals, what do you need? And I just listen. And then, we start to brainstorm, and then come up with a plan later. But I think listening is sort of the most important. That's so cliche.
No, but you had a great example, and I know we probably have to go to break soon, about sitting on the porch with a seller and getting to know them, and and when you were telling this to me, I pictured you guys drinking lemonade, playing checkers,
for sure,
or whatever, and that's exactly what you did with that client, which was to get to know what his motivation was or whatever, and then I saw that you have that listed, which is
it's super cute little tiny house. Yeah. So don't pick a realtor because they tell you they have a buyer, because that's usually not true. Don't pick a buyer don't pick a realtor because they tell you they can put a sign in the yard today. I've lost some listings because of that. I can put a sign in the yard right now. Well, is that the best strategy for you? How about we get a photographer and take some really good pictures and craft a strategy? And, I'm not going to take a month to do it, but hey, let's put a little thought into it before we put up the most expensive thing you're ever going to sell in your entire life. Don't pick a realtor just because they weigh discount commission, because you need to understand where that discount's coming from. Is it coming from the listing agent side, or is it coming from the buyer's agent side? Might be something interesting to discuss. And don't pick a realtor necessarily because they offer one of those buyout packages. We see that sometimes, where they say, if your house doesn't sell in 60 days, I'll buy it, because the price at which they will buy it for, you could probably sell it on the open market, because it's going to be an incredibly discounted price. So not necessarily the greatest selling point that you think. Do pick a realtor based on their ability to talk strategy in a way that makes you comfortable. Ask them what happens if there's a multiple offer, or if they've ever received an escalation clause on a listing before, and how they handled it and what happened. That'll also help you kind of sort out the not so experienced realtors if they have trouble answering those questions. Do pick a realtor based on how their listings appear online. Do pick a realtor based on their availability. That is huge for your sanity, huge for getting through to buyers and answering questions. I had a situation last year where the agent was sick and didn't respond for a week. We were going to write an offer, but we had a couple of specific questions we needed answered. And then by the end of the week, when she decided to get back to us, my buyers were like, they just thought I don't want to deal with it. So, and my last piece of advice is that your gut is usually right when picking a realtor. As with most things in real estate, go with your gut. All right, so that is some important advice on picking a realtor when you are a seller. And our next segment is going to be the transition strategy, as we used to call it, the 3 C's. Now it's the 4 C's. So stick around. You're listening to Real Real Estate Today, your home for smart real estate.